All right, hello and welcome once again to White Lotus of Light educational series, and we're doing a special Wednesday show here today. We're getting a jump in, so that way I can say Ryan Ruth did not kill himself. Puff Daddy did not kill himself. Just want to get those in before that becomes hyper relevant. Today we're going to be talking about quite a lot of stuff. The second attempt on Trump's life, the sudden Puff Daddy thing, the resurrection of Epstein by way of Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, that's back in the news cycle again, and a great deal of things related to the election, some angelic prophecy in there that seems to have come true. And just quite a host of various amazing odds and ends that relate to the Shadow War. If you're new to the channel, be sure you check out Shadow Wars Episode 1 in order to understand the terms Luciferian, Malachian, and Most High. And for everyone else, buckle up because it's going to be quite an episode. Before we start today, I'm actually launching today, Wednesday the 18th, the Introduction to Vedic Astrology class. And that helps you to understand karmas that are shown in your natal chart, which is 40 years and under, and your Navamsa chart, your sort of second chapter to your life. 40 and over, like me, you eventually switch into this Navamsa chart. And Vedic astrology is about not understanding personality or spirituality, but rather the unfoldment of karmas. And in fact, this show is here today because I'm a Vedic astrologer, and I use Vedic astrology to realize that I could take a very different course in my second half of life and become very successful when I had been really struggling as a social worker. And so Vedic astrology has completely transformed my life. And I'm teaching an Introduction to Vedic Astrology course, which you can find on whitelotusoflight.com. Links in the description below. We also have something called the Sacred Support Program. So if the full price is too spendy for you, and this is an adult learning program, meaning that all the classes are up, they're pre-recorded, and you can take them in your own time and then ask me questions directly, which I'll answer if it's not covered in the class. And with the Sacred Support Program, we are offering sliding scale for those who find the full price to be a bit challenging to meet. And so you just would go to whitelotusoflight.com Sacred Support Program and put in an application. And then that way we have all the sacred information on the site. Is not money is not a barrier. Of course, if people can afford the full price, I encourage them to pay it because it sort of helps subsidize the other students who can't pay it, the full price. In addition to that, I'm also teaching an Introduction to Angelic Magic course. Many people who are fans of the show have gone and taken the course and have found it to be completely transformative for their lives. And for me, it helped me beat a 27, 28-year addiction to hardcore pornography that came from abuse I suffered when I was a child. It's helped me overcome, heal, and transmute my trauma, own and integrate and heal from my own shadow, and help me step into my divine masculinity. And it helps women step into their divine femininity, and it just completely transforms your life forever. And so that is also an adult learning course with 3 weeks where we actually do the ritual to invoke the angels into us to help us bring about change within that puts us in greater alignment with natural law, that allows miracles and incredible synchronicities to come to us. And so that's at whitelotusoflight.com, and that also has the Sacred Support Program. So without further delay, we're going to leap right into it. So bunch of stuff going to be covered today. And so the first thing I want to talk about is it looks like there's more fulfillment of angelic prophecy happening, but in a way I kind of didn't expect it all. And so sometimes I don't understand what the angels mean until I have the benefit of hindsight. And in the June 22nd members only live chat, that's for Patreon members, and you can go to Patreon, you can register for 1 week for free, and you can view all the former members' lives and also have this week's, which will be on this Friday. And then after that, it's only $11 a month. That's less than $3 a week. And you can get access to almost all the content. There is some content for $28 and above members, but almost all of it's for folks who do the 11 or do the 1 week free trial to get access to all that. So in the June 22nd members only live, the angel spoke the following prophecy, and I'm going to read it word for word. Unexpected guests shall ruin the party for the Democrats. I thought this was related to the upcoming, at that point in time, DNC. They will invite in forces that they do not understand and cannot control, and these forces will turn against them. These are the uninvited guests, the unexpected guests. And so what I realized is that it is now, the DNC is coming pass now, and we've had the second attempt on Trump's life, but probably even bigger in the news is the debate where Trump said that, very famously now, they're eating the cats and dogs, right? Talking about alleged reports, from eyewitnesses who said that there were these Haitian immigrants who are of dubious legal status. They're kind of legal under the Biden regime, but there's no actual formal law. They're kind of doing it under a very odd program. And they dumped 20,000 of these Haitian immigrants, or approximately 20,000, in a town of 58,000. So whether the actual number is 15,000, which is the low end I've heard, or the high number I've heard now is 30,000, on a town of 60,000, which is the town I live in, I live near Corvallis, Oregon, is just about that same size. If you drop 20,000 of any group in there, first of all, it's going to cause problems, especially if they're from a very different culture. That's guaranteed. The same would be true if you drop 20,000 Americans into Haiti. They would it would be there would be immediate clash between the Haitians and Americans, right? It would just be automatic because of how different the cultures are. And then if you drop 20,000 people anywhere, there's going to be a certain amount of people who are criminals or who are having whatever kind of issues. And of course, now a lot of Haitian Americans have come forward and said, yeah, people do eat cats and dogs in Haiti. You want to know why? It's because of the terrible poverty there. Ever since the end of slavery, there's been some amount of eating of cats and dogs because there's been waves and waves and waves of starvation because that country's been brutally enslaved and then colonially occupied since Columbus set foot on it, basically. It's probably the single place where the most horrific nightmare stuff in the entire Western Hemisphere has happened, including black magic. And I talked about that a bit in last week's Members Only Live. I went into quite a bit about that. And so there's been these reports of eating cats and dogs, and there's Haitian Americans who say that, yes, that does happen in Haiti because of the terrible starvation. And of course, if you scratch beneath the surface, you see that the Bush family and the Clinton families both have had a huge amount to do with the suppression of the people of Haiti and the wages there that has led to starvations and coups and assassinations, all this nightmare stuff that's happened in Haiti, to where it's been the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere the entirety of my life, and a place where of untold suffering. And so when you take people who are from circumstances like that and you drop them in the U.S. with that no attempt whatsoever to help them understand the new culture they're in, and them dropping in a gigantic cohort to where they're very likely to cling to their culture, some percentage are likely to do things that they did in Haiti, which could include probably some marginally small amount of voodoo where animal sacrifice does occur, or some amount of people who are eating things that, it's just like the French eat frog legs. That comes from starvation. Escargot, that comes from a period of time where there was starvation in France, right? Like, that's why frog legs and escargot, I mean, like, people don't really eat it outside of France very much, maybe at hoity-toity restaurants, sometimes frog legs, sometimes, but it's usually very poor people who eat frog legs, right? So by a similar token, with cats and dogs, this is like the big thing that came out of that debate. And the Democrats latched onto it because they saw, oh, hey, we can tie racism around Trump's neck again. But it was a clever ruse by the Luciferians, clearly, to get this whole cats and dogs thing so people would start focusing on immigration. And now immigration is the big issue pretty much in the election, along with the economy, both of which Trump will crush at. And so I had thought, and I still think that this will happen, that things like what has happened in Aurora with the violent Venezuelan gangs, and in other states now, I've heard reports in California, Texas, right? They're stealing from oil fields in Texas, which then rises it to a national security concern. And that's just Venezuelan gangs. There's other gangs that have been brought in from elsewhere, because there's just millions and millions of people unvetted, and some of the amount of them are terrorists, embedded terrorist cells from, various Malachian factions, other governments, right? I've heard there's People's Liberation Army of China people who've come across the border that people in Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and elsewhere are aware of. I mean, that's what happens when you bring 20 million people in like a 3.5-year period, and you don't vet them, and you even ramp it up from there. So of course there's going to be some out, and this isn't to demonize these people, and I want to be very clear about it. These people need help. The best thing we could do would be to take them to their country and give them aid, some kind of Marshall Plan to rebuild Haiti. And I talked about that a lot last week. regardless, this has very much become front and center now in the election, and on terms of memes and funny videos, the Luciferian side is crushing because of this, and that's attracting younger voters to their cause. And it has a cool and a hip factor to it that when you look at the Waltz Harris campaign, it's like they're campaigning in, the late 90s, early 2000s. It's all polls and debates, and legacy media being in our pocket and trotting out a few Hollywood people and music industry people, And it's interesting because I'm going to be talking later in this episode about some of the astrology around Trump. Are you seeking a deeper connection to the divine, along with a personal journey of transformation? Welcome to Angelic Magic Classes with White Lotus of Light, where the light of the angels guides you through the realms of spirit, the integration of your shadow, healing of trauma, bringing harmony, abundance, and purpose into your life. In our Angelic Magic Classes, you will explore the profound relationship between divine energies and personal growth. By connecting with the celestial angelic realms, you'll uncover a path to greater happiness, a stronger sense of purpose, and a life filled with abundance of all kinds, from material financial prosperity to an abundance of love and joy in your day-to-day life. Under the guidance of Ian Ferguson and our experienced angelic magic practitioners, you will learn the ancient art of theurgic angelic magic. Explore the metaphysics of magic, the hermetic principles that govern the laws of our universe, sacred rituals, divine invocations, and powerful spells that have been passed down through the ages. Our classes help you align with your higher self, unlocking the key to a more fulfilling life through personal transformation. Discover the divine light within, connect with angelic celestial beings, and navigate and transform the shadows of your internal psyche that hold you back from fulfilling your true divine purpose and mastery of your own life experience. Our course is designed to bring you peace, happiness, and abundance in all areas of your life. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your life with angelic magic and start your journey towards spiritual awakening, personal fulfillment, and a newfound prosperity and joy in your day-to-day life. It is time once again for those who feel the call to pick up the arms and armor of the Most High God and become divine protectors of humanity and join the ranks of the co-creators of this earth realm, that we might bring about a more peaceful, harmonious, and loving planet. But speaking of music industry, some of the big news is that Puff Daddy just got arrested. And all the information about what Puff Daddy was involved in is just absolutely wild. And so along with Puff Daddy this week, also dropping this week, is new Epstein information is about to drop, according to Megyn Kelly when she was on Tucker. You also have something very funny, right? You see these pictures of Puff Daddy and you see all these different kind of Hollywood luminaries and big people from the music industry. And there's other people from the music industry that are being named along with Puff Daddy. That's very interesting, and it's all around human trafficking, and it's a blackmail operation. When you really boil it down, it's kind of the music industry's Epstein. If Epstein was the financial people and the intelligentsia people, right? People who are high ranking at various scientific programs, right? Because there was the big transhumanist connection with Epstein and Gates, right? That whole connection. So I noticed that all these different trafficking circles like Puff Daddy and Epstein, there's a figure that you keep seeing, right? Harvey Weinstein, right? You keep seeing someone near all of these people. Just right there, smack dab in the middle, and that's Oprah. You see Oprah a lot. And again, Oprah was also friends with John of God, who now has been arrested on insane trafficking and assault charges, right? Down in Brazil. That was a longtime friend of Oprah's, John of God. Very, very interesting that you just see her always in the middle around all of these people. I do wonder if that's not going to come up in some kind of way as we move forward with these Puff Daddy and Epstein revelations. I also think it's interesting The Rock, who's Oprah's BFF, right? They did all the Hawaii fundraising stuff. The Rock sort of came out with sort of a soft endorsement of Trump, almost like he got the tap on the shoulder and or the gun to the head to say, hey, you need to, we've got some material on you there, Mr. Rock, Mr. Dwayne Johnson. We got some material on you and you need to now switch teams, right? Kind of like all of a sudden Zuckerberg has been saying friendly stuff about Trump. Very odd, doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Given all their past actions, it looks like they're trying to straddle two fences. So I think we're going to see a lot more information about that drop. And then there's just a very odd story this week that I want to talk about, which is this insane thing where it looks like Mossad is killing Hezbollah people by blowing up their pagers and phones. There's a lot of discussion of the pagers. There's less discussion of phones and what they can do apparently with phones. I don't know how they're doing it with the pagers, but how they can do it with phones is that they can remotely hack in to the phone and overclock the CPU so it goes enormously fast. And then that can heat up the phone until the battery, which is very susceptible to heat or puncture, can explode. And then you get like a mini IED, essentially, that you can activate that everyone's carrying. Like it's made me, since I found out about this, it's made me think of my phone a lot more and be scared of it. Because I've seen a cell phone battery when I was trying to change the battery with my friend. We messed up and we just got really lucky that it just put out a toxic cloud. It didn't burst into flame and explode, or like the acid spray out on my friend's face. We got real lucky. And so I was already leery of phones because of the batteries. Now I'm extra leery. Just think, where are you going to be carrying these things? You're going to be carrying on your hip or in your hopefully not your front pocket. Be a good day to be a back pocket guy. If you were in Hezbollah or whatever. And so that to me is just a really sloppy, ham-fisted attempt, because I guess like some huge, enormous number of people were impacted, 3,000, 4,000, something like that. Some children were hurt, people were killed, tons of people injured, right? Including, of course, people who have nothing to do with nothing. You know, they just got lucky. Maybe they got a secondhand pager that used to be owned by a Hezbollah guy, or their number used to be owned by a Hezbollah guy, however it works, you know, or their brother's in it and they don't know and they're holding their brother's phone looking something up on the internet. You know what I mean? Like there's 100% civilian casualties that happened here. And it's just really sloppy and it's very aggressive and it's very shitty. And it's also tipping their hand on a very useful tool, which to me shows desperation and desire to create a greater regional war there. Right? Israel is spoiling for it. They would love to get in a regional war with Lebanon, Syria, and Iran because they'd love to take over Lebanon and Syria, and they want Iran gone. And there's no love lost between Israel and Iran, obviously. So that is a very weird escalation and one that's very spy crafty, hence my interest in it. And then, of course, you have on Friday, we don't know what went down. And the angels... In another prophecy on Friday said decisions were made on Friday that are basically going to start an unstoppable chain of events. And at the time when that was came through from the seraphim, that's they talked about this. They said that there was events that had happened on Friday, decisions that had been made that would cause a unstoppable domino effect. And at the time when that came through me, my awareness had that. For sure, we said no to using long-range weapons in Russia. That was what I had understood from reading the news. And so I was a little puzzled by that. And I thought, oh, well, maybe the UK and Keir Starmer, who seems super desirous of starting a war, a hot war, hotter than just Ukraine and Russia, again, creating a regional war in Eastern Europe, essentially, Central Europe, that they might just go their own way and just do it themselves. Because I thought that Keir Starmer and Justin Trudeau, who both are spoiling for World War III, which I would love to see those guys in the front lines in Ukraine, right? Love to see Justin Trudeau and Keir Starmer pack up their bags and get to the front lines. Like, hey, they could push into Russia. They should go to Kursk, right? Wherever the fighting's hottest, that's where I would love to see those two, since they're so desirous of war. I thought that from something I'd read that John Kirby said, I thought they had gotten rejected. But instead, we don't actually know what was decided. So it looks to me like the Moluccans are trying to stir up regional war on the Arabic Peninsula and in Eastern Europe, which very quickly would create this, crest of war that went all the way down from Lithuania, Latvia, all the way down to the Black Sea, right, in Ukraine. Which is interesting because if you watch the Peter Shampoo episodes where we talk about ley lines, the genocide line goes right through that area. And so that's a ley line that's been used by the Moluccans forever for evil. And there's a huge battle going on, according to the angels, between the Luciferians and the Moluccans for control of that ley line and certain portals and artifacts in that area. And they've been fighting over it. And that's where a lot of the archaeology wars are occurring, where especially Scythian artifacts are being dug up or taken out of museums by the Russians. Very interesting, especially when you learn to drill down on Scythian history and how important they are. So let's see, what else are we going to talk about here? So the second Trump assassination attempt, and I'm going to pull up some information for this. So I'm just going to play here a little clip of me talking about Uranus going retrograde towards the fixed star of Algol, the left eye of Medusa, the most evil and fell star used in astral magic of a dark astral nature, and very frequently used by the Moluccans and their various rituals. There was a conjunction between Uranus and Algol that happened during Trump's first attempt. In fact, I predicted that some big event would happen. I thought it would happen on July 11th. But based on the astrology, and also the angel said July 11th was an important day, which actually Viktor Orban and Trump met that day. And that apparently is a very important meeting behind the scenes. Because Viktor Orban's trying to get peace between Russia and Ukraine. So it makes me think there might be back channel communications between Putin and other people via Viktor Orban, because the media hates Viktor Orban too. But I thought, based on astrology, that there would be an event. And then, of course, the Trump assassination attempt happened. And on that day, Uranus and Algol were conjunct within less than 1 degree. And the Mars was also conjunct. And so with the three of them conjunct, a Uranus sudden shocking change, Mars violence, and then Algol evil, was the perfect day for the Moluccans to try and assassinate Trump. So I said that because now that Pluto has retrograded into Capricorn, with Uranus also joining Pluto in retrograde on September 1st, Pluto had been retrograde for a while, but it just went into Capricorn, which is the lower aspect of Capricorn is very much the essence of Moluccanism, not the higher aspect of Capricorn, which is quite good. But the lower aspect of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, is really Moluccan in character, tyranny, right? So I knew that things would start to look like the Moluccans might be doing well here and there, like the debate, right? And I fell for that myself. I thought it would be a windmill slam by Trump, and then instead he did a weird rope-a-dope thing and 4D chess where it looked like he was losing at first, and then he was winning. Well, Uranus also on September 1st just went retrograde. So you have Pluto retrograding into Capricorn on September 1st, and you also have Uranus, planet of sudden shocking change, retrograding back towards Algol, that fixed star. So here's what I said about that, and I think it's quite funny. On the astrology of last week and add that this Friday may have a large event happen. There's two reasons for this. astrologically speaking. And one of them is that, or excuse me, one of them is astrological and one of them is the symbolic and historical nature of Friday the 13th. But we've recently seen Uranus go retrograde. And that began on September 1st. Very interesting. The exact same day that Pluto retrograded into Capricorn. Pluto had been retrograde for a while, but it's now gone back into Capricorn. Its last period of time in Capricorn for about almost 250 years. For another 248 years, Pluto will never go in Capricorn again. And huge transformation, again, around power structures, but also what appears to be a last gasp by the Malachians where they have all the power, or so they think, right? So Uranus went retrograde September 1st and is now moving towards the exact conjunction at 2630 Taurus. So it was moving away from it. And why does that matter? Well, at 2630 Taurus is where the fixed star Algol, the left eye of Medusa, and I talk about this a lot in the astrology, where I did an astrology chart for what I thought would be a major event coming. And it turned out the next day there was the assassination attempt on Trump. And I pointed out that there was this fixed star, and that the fixed star Algol is considered the most evil star in the zodiac. And you have Uranus, the planet which is sudden shocking change, going retrograde and moving towards it again, and is now within 1 degree. And instead of 1 degree and separating, which really matters, direction in astrology matters tremendously. So a going back over of themes of what has happened before, a sudden shocking and ending up failing event, right? But a sudden shocking attempt at a huge power move happened when Uranus was conjunct Algol at 2630. And Uranus was then now moving away from it, but now has gone retrograde at the same time that Pluto has just gone on to Capricorn, which it was not last time. So there could also be an event, unlikely to be the same thing, right? Like them trying to go after Trump that way again, it could happen. I don't think so. I think that's too obvious. I think they're going to have to use other means. Okay, so as you can see, I got this one wrong. I said the Mollies aren't going to take another bite at the apple. Surely they're not so dumb as to try and take another bite at the apple, especially not with a lone gunman. Like this is 1970 or something. Like, what the hell? Like, we know they have way more stuff. I mean, look at this pagers and iPhones thing. There's way more sophisticated methods to take people out, some of which leave a very light touch or no touch. And remember, Trump had a problem with this plane and he had to land on the ground in Montana. And some people say that was a attempt. I think there's some truth to that. Today is actually Wednesday the 18th, and there's reportage heavily contested in the media that there were allegedly, according to certain media reports, and it could be that these people are sowing disinformation for who knows why, right? There are alleged reports that there were explosives found, and then it was claimed in some of the reporting I saw that it was training, that they were attempting to do a training exercise for the dog right where Trump was. Now, remember, training exercises are often used to nest real operations because it causes confusion in local law enforcement. It causes confusion and allows the operation to take place, right? There were drills on 9/11 over the Midwest with planes. The entire eastern seaboard was, all the air defense was rerouted to the Midwest for simulation of hijacked planes. That's quite on the nose. There were drills on during the 7/7 attacks. There's just very often drills that occur when something real happens. There were drills and weird stuff that went on with the Boston bombing. Very, very odd stuff, right? So here's this guy, Ryan Ruth, who did not kill himself, and neither did Puff Daddy. Right? They definitely did not. If they get really sad or have an accident, I mean, come on, right? So Ruth does this, and when you look at Ryan Ruth, dude, this guy has Oswald vibes for days. For days. he's involved in so many weird, nonsensical things where like nothing kind of happens and it just looks empty. And they just all look to me like cover for an intelligence asset. The same way Lee Harvey Oswald had a million different jobs and he defected to Russia and he came back and he was seen in Cuba, but at the Cuban embassy, that's a picture of obviously not Oswald, even though it's claimed to be a leaked picture of Oswald from the Cuban embassy. It's 1,000,000,000% not Oswald. Then Oswald lived with Ruth and Michael Payne, who worked at Bell Helicopter under the auspices of paperclip Nazi Kurt Davis. And Oswald told people who would listen that he was going to be working at NASA. He did both pro-communist and anti-communist stuff at different points in his life. He was all over the map. This Ryan Ruth guy's the same way. He was in Ukraine palling around with Azov battalion members, right? He was trying to recruit people to Ukraine to fight as foreign soldiers, to be conscripted and brought into Ukraine. And he was frustrated with the Azov battalion basically didn't want people there that they weren't 100% about, that they were very paranoid. And he wanted to bring people from Afghanistan, former fighters who had fought against the Taliban and so forth in Afghanistan, wanted to bring them in, was one of the things he said, which is bizarre for starters, and a whole host of reasons that's bizarre. But the Azov battalion wasn't having any of it because the Azov battalion are hyper racist. It's the neo-Nazi battalion that was condemned by Congress for many years here in the US. Ro Khanna talked about it. Who's like, you know, big DNC guy. He like, even back in the day when they were just considered super bad news and nobody wanted anything to do with them. But this guy did. He hung out with them. And then he did all sorts of weird, like what looked like bot posts on social media. No followers, some weird CIA people floating around him. Just weird, right? Everything about it's weird. But someone gave this guy inside information. What I think happened, and this is pure 100,000,000,000,000% high octane speculation. My speculation is that the Luciferians are way several steps ahead of the Malachians in terms of all their assassination attempts. Way ahead. And they have massive technological edge that's impossible to overstate. And because of that technological edge, all the higher tech versions of trying to get Trump are absolutely impossible. And out of desperation, the Malachians have devolved to attempting to do really sloppy things. Old school sloppy, right? Possibly explosives today. That's scary, right? But also these lone gunmen, weird characters, right? Both of them very weird intelligence people, or like, I guess the one guy's dad I heard today, Crooks's dad, was some kind of behavioral psych person. Super weird and creepy, like Harris and Klebold back during Columbine, like their parents worked in military industrial complex stuff. You know, it showed weird occult drawings that they had done that just didn't make a whole lot of sense for teenage boys to be drawing this kind of stuff as though they were involved in occult rituals of some kind. You know, just weird vibes like that. Just weird vibes for days, this guy. And yeah, what I want to bring your attention to is what was happening on both the days from an astrological perspective, because I think that's very interesting. And so the chart, I'm going to show the tables that show where planets are at, because I think that'll be easier for people who aren't astrologers to understand, and astrologers can understand looking at this chart. So you'll see that Algol, the fixed star, the left eye of Medusa, the most evil star in the sky from an astral magic point of view, meaning using magic by invoking the elements of certain stars. The fixed stars, like Algol, they stay steady in the sky and they're found in specific constellations. Whereas the planets were called by the ancients the wanderers, because they move through the sky and they would retrograde, right? Because the planets are in motion. Whereas the fixed stars, from the point of view of the Earth, they move like very slightly or almost not at all. You can see Algol, it shows that there's a slight difference in arc seconds, but it's basically 2630 in both charts. Now, this top one is what was happening on the day of the first assassination attempt. And I want to point out that Mars, whoops, if you look here, Mars, if I can get it to work, whoa, there we go. Mars is at 25.9 Taurus. Uranus was at 2615 Taurus, so within 1 degree. And then Algol's at 2630 Taurus. So they were all within 1 degree of each other. Mars, planet of violence, Uranus, planet of sudden shocking change, and then Algol, the fixed star, which is always at 2630 Taurus. Now, Uranus had moved past it, and you'll notice that at that time, Pluto was in Aquarius. Okay, so, but was retrograding in that 1st degree of Aquarius, and to then go back into Capricorn, as you can see down below, it's at 2948 Capricorn here in the 2nd chart, right? You then, again, you have our Uranus is now retrograde, and it's at 2710 and retrograding, and it's only 40 arc minutes away from Algol, meaning less than 1 degree of separation, meaning they're conjunct within 1 degree, basically 0 degrees conjunct. Very, very odd that as Uranus is going back there and you're reviewing sudden shocking change, again, I did not think that the Malachians would go back, but I think they're so desperate, they're turning to 1960s and 70s lone gunmen because they're getting defeated with all their other attempts, and that's all being slapped down behind closed doors. But they're letting these attempts run out there in part because a big part of what Trump is doing is triggering JFK programming in the boomers, right? And all their sadness around JFK being killed. I mean, you notice RFK Jr. is coming in. He was best friends with JFK Jr., right? JFK Jr. did all that investigation of his father and uncle's assassinations. You know, look at what RFK is openly saying. Trump saying he's going to release the JFK file. There's a reason that the Malachians are letting these there's a reason the Luciferians, rather, are letting the Malachians get close enough to do this kind of stuff while then preventing it. It's because it's triggering that baby boomer JFK programming and remembering a time before the Malachians and the CIA really took over with an iron fist, which happened with the killing of JFK, where things seemed better, right? The CIA was still operating in the shadows, but people didn't have to worry about it. So they're triggering that programming in Camelot, and let's maybe bring that back, right? That's one of the things they're doing with this. But nonetheless, it's still shocking that they decided to run out the exact same game plan. So what's interesting is that Mars is out of bounds, meaning very powerful, so violence, but it's in Cancer, which is not very good for actual violence. Mars in Cancer is debilitated. The Mars is at its weakest. It's at its least useful because it's in the sign of the mother. Cancer is the sign of the mother. It's you see the breasts right there in the icon, the left and right breast. That's what the Cancer symbol is. And that's what it rules as far as body parts, like Aries rules the head. So, or Pisces rules the feet, right? The beginning and end of the zodiac. So you have Mars out of bounds, and so acting like kind of erratically and angrily, and in the sign of Cancer. And so what I think happened is I think that there was this guy who was ready to go and primed, and had been brainwashed as a potential, mind control assassin. And then they decided the Lucy's either got him going or got wind of that the Malachians were going to use him and kind of let it happen without it impacting Trump at all and catching him right away, right? And now welcome to the Introduction to Vedic Astrology course, where timeless wisdom blends with contemporary insights. Are you curious about the mysteries of the cosmos and how they influence our daily lives? Do you want to uncover the secrets of your destiny through the ancient art of Vedic astrology? Join us on this enlightening journey. Our comprehensive 8-week course is designed specifically for beginners. Join a supportive community of like-minded individuals, all eager to explore and learn together. You'll dive deep into the key concepts and principles of Vedic astrology, from understanding the zodiac signs and planetary positions to interpreting birth charts. This course offers a hands-on approach to learning. Discover the profound insights Vedic astrology can provide into your personality, relationships, career, and more. By the end of this course, you'll have a solid foundation in Vedic astrology and the skills to interpret astrological birth charts with confidence. Embark on your journey into the stars today. Sign up for the Introduction to Vedic Astrology course and unlock the secrets of the universe through astrology. Visit our website to learn more and enroll today. Your journey to self-discovery begins here. DeSantis is saying that he signed an executive order that they're going to investigate this most recent attempt in Florida state with the Florida State Attorney General. That now puts the Biden administration in the position of, do they federalize the case, which just looks super suspect, or do they let DeSantis start poking around and his attorney general start using subpoena power and poking around? They've got to be really, really scared. And so I suspect that there's going to be a further provocation, probably in Ukraine. Look at what's happening now in Israel, right? There's going to be a further provocation, and I think we may really begin to see like open regional war along that strip of the planet that runs from all the way from Latvia, Lithuania, and all the way down basically to Israel, right? Central Europe and the Arabic Peninsula just all catching fire. Eastern Europe, better put, right? Eastern Europe and the Russian bloc, just that area just catching fire. From what the angels have said, World War III is going to be very strange. It's going to be much like World War II. There were big parts of the world during World War II. South America is virtually unaffected by World War II. South Saharan Africa, not really impacted except for economically. India, not really impacted except economically, right? There were, the U.S. wasn't really impacted other than Pearl Harbor, right? Had almost nothing happen. Canada is fine. Mexico is fine. U.S., of course, was heavily involved in the war, but there was no action here. And so I think you're going to see a similar thing as World War II begins to go more public, or World War III, excuse me, begins to go more public because it's already underway. I think that there's going to be restraint shown on the part of Russia. They may very well obliterate Kiev if they indeed attack into Russia. They may very well obliterate Kiev, but I have to see. I don't think Ukraine has been allowed into NATO yet. I know they talked about it. I don't think that it has. I will look that up real quick. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there had been some shenanigans to get them in, but no, Ukraine is not a NATO member. So Russia could send a message by crushing Kiev and just obliterating Kiev without triggering, I forget what it is, Article 13 or whatever it is, in the NATO agreements, where if any NATO member country is attacked, then whatever. Now, Russia might say we're at war with NATO, but not do anything to continue to not look like the aggressor, right? I think the Luciferians, which includes the BRICS countries, are not wanting things to escalate beyond a certain point because they want to see Trump get in and then they'll negotiate from there. That said, could a regional war open up in that area I'm talking about? Yes. Will it be really devastating to those regions? Yes. Look at what's happened to Ukraine. It's horrific. Look at the Russian provinces in eastern Ukraine that kicked this whole thing off. The ethnic cleansing of Russian-speaking Ukrainians in eastern Ukraine is what kicked this off in many ways, depending on where you want to demarcate, where you start paying attention to history. It seems to me that the encroachment of NATO and the ethnic cleansing in the Donbass and other Russian-speaking regions of eastern Ukraine is what caused Russia to invade, so they say, right? And also to go after the bioweapons labs and the Nazis there, all of which seems to have some degree of credibility to it. So even if you're against the war, and I'm against war in Ukraine, right? I don't like it on either side. You can still understand that things are more complicated than it's explained to us. So can that region light up? Can the Arab Peninsula? Yes, I think so. And in fact, I would even go so far as to say it's quite likely. I don't think that means I certainly am certain that will not mean some kind of War Games 1980s Matthew Broderick movie where they just launch all the missiles, right? I don't foresee that happening. That doesn't, even the Malachians would be very reticent to do that, but the Luciferians certainly don't want that because they don't want to rule over a cinder husk. And the Malachians aren't quite to the place yet where they're like, okay, we just need to burn the whole thing down. And that's what the Luciferians are trying to avoid. So it's this push and pull and struggle and people being, taken out behind the scenes and pressure and like, this Puff Daddy and Epstein thing. It's not going away. It's getting worse. And all those people are feeling pressure. And the more pressure the Malachians feel, two things are going to happen. The more desperate they're going to get, the more three things. The more desperate, the more transparent, and the more stupid. The more critical mistakes they're going to make, because the Luciferians have completely interrupted their OODA loop, their orient, observe, decide, act loop. It's a fifth generational warfare concept. And by keeping their opponent off of that, they can control their opponent. And that's where we're at, it looks like to me, in this fight between Luciferians and Malachians. Make no mistake, the Malachians are incredibly dangerous and still have tremendous power. And these next 6 months, right, between now and March 21st are going to be really intense. 2025 looks like it's going to be very, very intense, right? Like the Luciferians, I think, will take over in the U.S. and be fighting in the U.S. throughout 2025. And then I think 2026, 2027, that conflict goes global and winds down in 2028. I think in 2025, even it goes global, even here in late 2024. And things are going to be very, very touch and go and shaky. Major cities, there's going to be problems there. All the stuff I say on this channel all the time. Every day we wake up and things are fine and calm. Just, hug your family, enjoy it, right? Because this isn't going to last. There's too much pressure in too many areas, and something's got to give. And so what you can do is work on your shadow, owning and integrating your shadow, work on healing your trauma, and work on stepping into divine masculinity and divine femininity. This is part of what's taught in the angelic magic courses, learning your karmas and what tools and gifts you have to share with the world and where to lean into is the Vedic astrology piece, and both those things I teach in order to help people. But there's many, many ways that people can go about doing this inner work, but it's the most important thing. Getting food, water, medicine, gold, silver, all that kind of stuff, that's all good. But if you're sitting there fearful, aggressive, angry, right, ready for violence, like seeking violence, having violence within your heart, that's going to get attracted to you, that fear, that violence. I'm not saying be an idiot and not be able to defend yourself. Quite the contrary. Be able to defend yourself. Get point and click tools that can defend you and your family. But if you have tons of money and tons of ammo and bullion and all that stuff, and you're like super aggressive and fearful, you're going to attract that to you. You might have almost nothing and be very peaceful and holding that vibration of the peace that passeth understanding. And you're going to be able to move through the chaos. And there's many ways to achieve that. I don't have some kind of sole proprietorship of that. There's many, many, many methods out there for doing this work. Christian context, Jewish context, Islamic context, Hindu, Buddhist. There's many, many roads, but any roads that are taking you in the direction of healing your trauma, not ignoring it, healing it, integrating and healing your shadow and transmuting it, not ignoring it, not just putting 10% on the plate and saying, I love that Jesus guy, and now I'm going to go out and bludgeon people with an economic club. No. Doing the inner work and transformation until you get to a place of true inner love where you find that divine spark within yourself, that divine spark that's in everything, that the Most High, the creator God of this realm, created. My Father who art in heaven, as Jesus Yeshua said. When you find that spark, you're able to have the kind of true connection to God and self-love within, that then you can do Yeshua's final, most important command. Love thy neighbor as thyself. This is the essence of my teaching. When you can do that, then you are going to easily move through things. And there's ways to get on that path. You don't have to be Christian. You don't have to follow Jesus. You can. You can do it through Christianity. You can do it through Islam. You can do it through Judaism. You can do it through lots of different things. I do prefer the mystical sects in all three of those groups. Most Abrahamic faiths have been taken over by that Malachian consciousness, right? But what I'm saying is regardless of your culture or background, there's different ways that you can approach this. Doing that healing and getting in touch with that divine spark within you. Whatever language you want to use isn't as important. So any path that's leading you towards healing. Another thing Yeshua said that I love is You shall know them by their fruits. When you work with angels, you become more peaceful and a better person, more charitable, more loving, more giving, right? I know that I'm working with angels because of the fruits in my own life, ending a 27, 28-year addiction to hardcore pornography, being a better father, brother, a better friend, a better lover, all the different aspects of my life that have improved because of this, right? So I know it by the fruits. And the same is true with dozens of different spiritual paths and ways of doing this healing. So regardless of how you approach it, do the inner work. And if you do that, everything will come together for you in miraculous ways, and you'll be able to move through all of what's happening, including the upcoming bottleneck event. And so that's where the work is. The work is always within. We pay attention to this other stuff because it's fascinating and interesting, and just to keep abreast of what's happening so we can make decisions in our lives. But we only make good decisions when we've done that work and done that healing. Because if we're making decisions out of fear and anger, they're not going to be nearly as good as when we're making decisions out of love and compassion, and from a level where we can take practical action that's done with love. That might look similar to fear-based decisions. You may be getting lots of food and water, but you're not doing it out of fear. You're like, oh, this is coming. Noah wasn't like, oh my God, there's going to be a flood. Ah! Noah was told there was a flood and he made the ark, right? And I'm just using that as an analogy. I'm not saying that literally happened or whatever. That's the discussion for another time. I'm saying you need to, from a place of love, take tangible action in your life. If you're making those same decisions out of fear, it won't work for you. And if you're making similar looking decisions, but they're out of love, it's going to work beautifully for you. Much love. And there will be a members only Patreon on Friday. And I'm not sure what's going to come through. We're going to be talking about the events of the rest of the week, and I think there will be more. We're getting to that time period, that temporal marker, mid-September now, where things are going to be heating up. Who knows? Things are going to very, very soon get very, very wild. And so find that place of peace within you. All right, much love, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye-bye.